I belong to a family that got uprooted from Kashmir in 1947. And came a time when I started questioning everything about existence. In a way, you can say I became an atheist. I have some disappointments within my own community because not many people can understand what I was trying to do. My name is Amardeep Singh. I'm based in Singapore. I've had a long career in the corporate world. Just a typical run-of-the-mill career. Worked for 25 years, large chunk of it in American Express. My career took me from India to Hong Kong to Singapore. And then in 2014, especially when the treadmill is running at a very fast pace and it stops, of course, you're going to get disoriented. But that disorientation is the reason why the change happened. But something beautiful has blossomed thereafter. I belong to a family that got uprooted from Kashmir in 1947, a town called Muzaffarabad, up in the hills, which now is in Pakistan. It's interesting that most of the people think I'm Sikh, so I'm from Punjab, and I always say Punjab has shaped my identity and has forced me to think in a particular way. But why should it? So somehow if you see, identities get shaped by what communities decide. So today's Sikh thought is in many ways boxed into Punjab. October 1947, the story in our family goes, partition has happened in August 1947. The Radcliffe line has already split the Indian subcontinent. And 21st October 1947, the bridge on Jhelum at Muzaffarabad hears a war cry from the people who were senselessly sent in to massacre people based on their ethnicity, based on the religious backgrounds. And what the story goes in our family is, in the midnight, with a war cry which said, Hindu ka zar or Sikh ka sar. The massacres that led on that day resulted in uprooting of my family. And I was then thereafter born in Gorakhpur in UP. My father came down there. I was sent to a boarding school. I went to one of the premium schools in India, the Doon School in Dehradun. I was in a boarding for 12 years of my life. In the school, if you talked in Hindi, you would be looked down upon because of a very elitist environment. I would take a train, come down via Lucknow, which was the Awadh belt, and the language would be Hindi or Urdu. And then I would enter Gorakhpur, where they would be on the streets talking Bhojpuri. We would enter our home, and which was named as Sundar Villa. That was the name of my father. And I knew when the moment I opened the gates and I enter, the energy would totally change to Punjabi gal kita kar. ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਖੋ ਕੇ ਆ ਗਏ ਹਾਂ, ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵੀ ਖੋ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਰਹਿ ਕੀ ਜਾਏਗਾ. Now, Punjabi as a language today is associated with Punjab, but we are people from Kashmir region. Of course, the boundaries of language were very porous. We would speak Pahadi Punjabi, like Asa, Jasa, Khasa, not the Punjabi that we hear in Punjab today. And such was the expectation that if you didn't speak in Punjabi, then my father would come out very hard on us. But he showed something beautiful. In this conflicted environment of language divisions, started amalgamating different cultures, different languages. And then the next question used to be when I used to go out in the streets was, why do I look different? My father wears a turban, he has a beard. I don't see that many people of this look out here. And my father would say, keep this, because this is who we are. This is our glorious chapters of our history that churned in the lands of Indus. And I would struggle. So amongst all these identity conflicts, sprouted the seed at a very early age of who am I? And that seed has led me to where I am today. And the faith is leading me to a region in East Punjab where I traveled as a young kid to Amritsar. But I see a very different outlook of that region versus where my forefathers were from, right? I don't know, because when I was growing up, there was a lot of confusion. When I look at the Persian sources from history, when they are talking about the faith that I am believed to be coming from, they are telling us this group of people living in Indus region, the Persian sources are calling them are the Nanak Panth. Now in the Indic traditions, Panth are basically congregation of people who come together. You have a Kabir Panth, the followers of Kabir. You have Dadu Panth, followers of Dadu. You have so many other Panths. The more I delved into the history, that resonated to me. That I am a person of a Sikh origin, the way I'm dressed up the way I am. But philosophically, we are the Nanak Panth, which believes in oneness. My scripture, Guru Granth Sahib, is not just Guru Nanak or the Sikh Gurus. It's an amalgamation of 15 Indic saints, the Bhagats from across the Indian subcontinent. But if you're getting into the depth of who we are, and if you understand the message of oneness, then the world is your stage. Whenever there is a conflict in the society, whenever there's a conflict on principles on which you exist or which you believe in, there has to be a disengagement or disconnect with who you think you are. The more you understand what the environment is trying to create, the more respect you get for what your forefathers were. You don't choose where you're born. You are born where you are. And you need to take that as a starting point, because that's the easiest place to start with. When British came in, for 110 years, 20 years, they've taken over the whole of India. They're giving an identity of British India. The political identity of India is only a recent gift that has been given, or the political identity of Pakistan or political identity of Bangladesh, anchored on divisiveness. The beauty of Bhakti period from which our traditions evolve, from Baba Farid to Kabir to Namdev to Nanak, is that they are bringing in all of these diverse terminologies of philosophies, but they are singing. That's why it's called Bhakti. In some ways, it's harder to understand Bhakti than another structured philosophy, because there you're taught A, B, C, D, E, F. You go to a school, you go A, B, C, D, E, F. Here the saints, how they resonate with their surrounding or their existence, in ecstasy they start singing. But they sing in the way they feel. And you're trying to anchor into that singing to understand what are they trying to say. And there's no one trying to teach you that. You're taught engineering, you're taught filmmaking, you're taught A, B, C, D of everything, but you're not taught this. But we belong to a tradition where Guru Nanak seeded a beautiful act of amalgamating the verses of Baba Farid by going to Pakpatan, which later on, by the time of 5th Guru, beautifully the amalgamation of the entire saints of the Indian subcontinent get amalgamated in the Guru Granth Sahib, the Sikh scripture. What Guru Nanak seeded resulted in a scripture where identities of saints who thought of oneness in the same mindset amalgamated in the region of 5 rivers. And from there sprang the physical identity at a time when the socio-political environment required you to actually question the caste divisions, the differentiation between man and woman, the differentiations between geographies, the differentiation between forceful adaptation of certain faiths. You stood up, my forefathers stood up against that. That resulted in a identity that people tend to associate us with. But that physical identity has to always motivate me to understand the deeper essence of the internal identity. If you can't understand that, the physical identity will not stay there. And I think that's what the world is facing in our community today. I feel that we are losing the understanding of the internal foundations. And if the foundations get weak of a building, the building will start shaking. The beautification of the building will always wow everyone if the foundations are always understood. Naturally, history led me to philosophy from my home, created a lot of disillusionment, could not understand, and therefore it led me into understanding or reading about diverse Indian traditions. And came a time when I started questioning everything about existence. In a way, you can say I became an atheist. It's good to become an atheist too in your quest, because that too is a philosophy. How would you know what is light if you don't know what is darkness? And I'm not saying light is better than darkness. How would you know darkness if you don't know what is light? So I'm not saying what is right or what is wrong. But as I went into that phase, from a childhood days, I was always taught in my faith, God is one. Ik Omkar. It dawned on me, no. These saints have not taught you God is one. These are the people of the faith who are teaching you, which is totally different. And all our great writers also who have written books, which many of them I've read, all have written, the Sikh faith is a monotheistic faith which believes in God is one. Where is God, tell me then? When you start looking at a monotheistic faith, believes in God is one, then God is sitting up there, down there, left, right. When you make it a monotheistic faith, then you're falling in the path of an Abrahamic faith. There's nothing wrong with Abrahamic faith. But Abrahamic faith comes from the 3 traditions of Judaism, Christianity, Islam, which believe monotheism. God is one. But then the creation is not God. And Guru Nanak is writing Ik before that Omkar. Akar, Kar is Akar. What takes a form. The Trinity is the creative power, the sustenance power, and the destructive power of everything that happens. And that oneness, when you start looking at it, it dawned from Kabir's verse to me is, there is no God which is one and distinct from you. Everything is intertwined into oneness. The day you realize that, the differentiations go away. And that day when I understood, then it means that oneness means you and I are one. The tree and I are one. If I'll cut the tree, it is going to impact me because we are one ecosystem. So everything becomes one ecosystem, and so that day I gained faith again. So when you understood that, your quest for philosophy, which led you to a non-believer, got you back into belief. And that day I picked up the camera and I said, I would like to appreciate the creation, which is the creator itself. My corporate career, meanwhile, is running at a different pace, and I've excelling and I've reached and become the Asia Pacific region's head in American Express. That's a different path. But this path is now parallelly developing, right? My photography started excelling. I started writing with photographs, and those articles started getting published in magazines like Asian Geographic and all. It was not a career. You were just doing it unconsciously. The purpose was to emerge because of all these acts that I was doing in the moment. It goes back to that, right? But to me, something happened that forced me to come out of that and take a arm's length distance. It was not easy. The treadmill stopped. I was an Asia Pacific region head. It just stopped one fine day, right? And as it stopped, I lost faith in myself. I started feeling good to be actually losing confidence in yourself. And that's where Guru Nanak's beautiful verse spoke to me. It says, Dukh daru, sukh rog bhaya. Guru Nanak is talking about, or the saints talk about, a dukh, which is your internal dissatisfaction. When that internal dissatisfaction emerges, it comes with a dose of medicine too, daru. Daru is not what in India we made this in the, everyone's going around, daru pine chalte hain. No, daru is a Persian word. It's a very depth-filled word. It's the medicine. Look at all these skill sets from the age of 17 years. History, philosophy, musicology, belief, no belief, realization of the fundamental principles, photography, writing, the visual aspects were all ready. I was not an expert in any of them. This question about how I was feeling in the transition from the corporate into what I did is coming because people think I did something for a purpose. The moment you understand, I unconsciously went into a path. I did not go into Pakistan to write a book. Year 2003, I was at the Sikh Center in the Sylhet Road Gurdwara in Singapore. There's a Chinese delegation sitting there. There's a young Sikh man who's presenting the Chinese delegation there. And he's trying to tell them, who are the Sikhs? And he shows the map of Punjab. And it's East Punjab, which is in India today. And he says, Sikhs are from here. And I'm sitting there. Am I? Not really. I'm from Kashmir. I'm looking at the entire communities of people who migrated from the lands of Punjab on the west side, the Khatri community, with whom we lived in Mohadipur, Gorakhpur. They all used to go to the Gurdwara. Something started happening over the years that they all started going elsewhere. Who's he to tell them that he's trying to define me, am from where he chooses to define it from? There's something wrong here. I read a history which I was reading from a very young age, which tells me the glorious chapters of my community churned in the lands that became Pakistan. The Indian subcontinent is being invaded by the people from Central Asia, the Turks. When Ranjit Singh or the Sikh missiles came into power after Guru Gobind Singh, for the first time the Lahore Darbar that gets created pushes the boundary of the empire westwards up till Khyber Pass. 900 years the subcontinent is invaded from the Khyber Pass. First time the people of the land, not Sikhs, the people of the land, because it was a very secular kingdom. It had Muslims, it had Hindus, it had Sikhs, and today it's boxed into narratives of religion. But religion is not legacy. Religion is a subset of legacy. They are living, breathing on multiple facets. There's a military history, there's a cultural history, there's art, there's architecture, there's philosophy, there's food. There's so many aspects, right? There's interfaith. And I'm looking at that. My question was, where are those places? I went to Pakistan to experience that. And what I came back with led me to say that, why shouldn't this be documented? Why should the wealth be only defined as dollars and cents? If I have not contributed in dollars and cents to the welfare of the society, this probably is my way of giving back to the society, right? And so therefore I just sat back and started writing. And the journey starts from there. I've done 2 books which go by the name of Lost Heritage. The Sikh Legacy in Pakistan, that's the volume 1. in which I've documented legacy remnants in 36 cities and villages. The second book is called The Quest Continues, Lost Heritage, the Sikh Legacy in Pakistan, in which I've documented the legacy remnants across 90 cities and villages. A lot of outcomes have happened from these books. The book evolved as a process of what you were experiencing as a post. But you just went in to kind of address certain questions in your mind. So I remember I went into the Pakistan embassy in Singapore and I applied for the visa. The form only had one category amongst the many categories. It said Sikh religious sites visits, which would have meant Nankana Sahib, Panja Sahib, Kartarpur Sahib, 3 gurdwaras. I was disappointed. In my mind, that was not what was pulling me. What was pulling me was, where are the legacy remnants? I would have still gone, but the pull was somewhere else. And the person who gave the visa to me, the passport back to me in my hand, I started talking to him and soon I realized the way he was speaking Punjabi was the way my mother spoke Punjabi. And so I just asked him laughingly as to where was he from, and amusingly, right? So, and he says, Abbottabad. And I just kept the passport back saying that Meri maa utthe di sigi, oh kadi ja nahi saki. I told him openly, I said, I know you've given me a religious visa, but I'm more interested in seeing my mother's place, my father's place, and I want to see a few more places. And I said, I don't know when I'll go. I've just left the corporate world. This is the only time I have. And he started smiling and he said, come after 2 days. I went back after 2 days. I don't know what he had done, but I had a 30-day visa, open-ended. Now, that to me is a blessing. And I stepped into Pakistan with a camera. Something that I firmly believed on when I went to Pakistan also was the religion was not attracting me. I am a Sikh, I am attached to the religious sites, but that's not what was pulling me in. So unlike today where after partition, most of the people going to Pakistan would want to go to the birthplace of Guru Nanak, which is Nankana Sahib, or where he breathed his last, Kartarpur Sahib, or maybe 2 or 3 more important Gurdwaras. I would have gone to those places, and that I would definitely in my journey, but my pull was, where is the vast footprint of the Sikh legacy remnants in Pakistan, which today is boxed into religion. I'm seeing a story which is bigger than just religious sites and the Gurdwaras. I'm seeing in the remains of these places art which was non-restrictive. I'm seeing ruins of places which in today's East Punjab don't look like that, because today's East Punjab, the community has made huge Gurdwaras which are marble and gold laden. There's no art inside them. And in these ruins, you're seeing what your forefathers were creating. So I went in and I just started documenting this narrative, not realizing that what it takes to publish a book. This is the first time that you saw it from a belt of the Indus River. And Sindh, the Sindhi Hindu community, the Balochi Hindu community, all of them who are adherents of Guru Nanak. The forts along the western frontier, the northwestern frontier, how a triangular formulation happened during the times of Ranjit Singh and Hari Singh Nalwa's time, where the invasion routes from Khyber Pass were blocked into Lahore and Delhi and onto Kashmir side. All those footprints for the first time were documented. People who invited me to their home for lunch, dinners, who took me from one place to the other. I'm highly obliged to all of them. I felt the yearning in the eyes of many. While I may have authored the book, but it's the love and affection of the people of the country and the land of Indus region who have a part to play in this book, right?
क्या हाल है जी? ठीक ठाक?
अल्लाह का शुक्र
की नाम है ਤੁਹਾਡਾ?
अब्दुल मजीद
बहुत चंगा लगा मेरा अमरदीप है मेरा नाम
हजर खान
ते
अब पहचाना है
पहचाना ते ये उस दौर ने नहीं है ये उस दौर दे ते नहीं पहचाना
I have some disappointments within my own community because not many people can understand what I was trying to do. For them, these are just sites, these are just two books. But what went behind it, very few people know. I took a lot of risk and I went into Sindh and Balochistan. Now, people don't know the stories, but in Karachi, I got picked up. I went into Balochistan. I, for a moment, thought I was dead. We're still going into places where others are choosing not to go or don't want to go is internal. So all this work is internal now. So there's a physical space where you spend 10 years of your life. Now you're going in these projects, internal space where others are choosing not to go. So that's how things evolve. But the essence of the message out here is you don't control your purpose. Purpose has to emerge. And purpose, the most self-actualized purpose will emerge when you have given the life your best. And when you go through the sine curves of ups and downs, the medicine, the antidote lies in the moments when you're at the lowest point of your life. Somehow in my life, I started realizing that desires have to be churned into managing needs. Desires are always upward spiraling. Needs are what you need to exist. In this whole scheme of things, if you're doing something that's right and the energy chooses you, then energy will also take care of giving you the food on the table. The next body of work, Guru Nanak documentary series, 5 years of our life went into it. Not easy. What is the bigger purpose of what Guru Nanak did was to travel around, to bring in this oneness message, to understand. I think at the end of the day, that's what his main aim was, that amongst these divides that will exist, research between 2014 and 2017 brought forward for the first time is the legacy footprint, much larger than just Punjab. As you move westwards from the East Punjab and go more towards the Afghanistan border or down south along the Indus River, the definition of Sikh as we say today is not the same. Every non-Islamic person there is known as, in some ways, as a Nanak Panthi, because they have got Guru Nanak intertwined inside their belief system. The definitions have become hardened. The boundaries have become hardened in the modern context. But the more you go on these sites, you find a very different narrative. And that's the narrative that our forefathers came from. Guru Nanak's narrative is much beyond the walls of Gurdwaras because he was a man on quest. He went far and wide only to understand the oneness of humanity, and he was having dialogues with people of different faiths. The earliest narratives only talk about his travels to a large geography which today is divided into 9 countries. And these 9 countries are Pakistan, India, just the region of Tibet, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Saudi, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. This is what the earliest narratives talk about. And through that tell the narrative of Guru Nanak as to why did he travel, what was he trying to achieve, and what was his message. There we were inside Afghanistan, and next we were in Iran, the next we were in Iraq. A journey of close to about 16, 17 months. Me and my wife, Vininda Kaur, we actually led the team, and having come back 3 days before the COVID shut down the world, the entire narrative was filmed. We gave the English 24 episodes and our desire was to do it in Punjabi and Hindi also. That came in as a request. So we've done it in 5 languages and we've given it back to the world. Ultimately, you are your own guru. What Guru Nanak says, when Siddhas ask him, Tera kaun guru, kiska tu chela? I mean, we say Guru Nanak is our guru, right? Let's step back. Guru Nanak is being asked by the Nath Jogis, Tera kaun guru, kiska tu chela? And he gives a beautiful answer. If you can apply that, I think we've understood his entire philosophy. He says, Sabad Guru, Surat Dhun Chela. Wisdom is my guru, is my teacher. Because of my experiential learning that I'm going through, it's giving me experiences. And my constant reflection within me is the disciple that's making me grow. That applies to every one of us. The world will not remember you for what you did in your corporate life or what you did in your business. The world will remember you, if it has to remember, for what you were, what you churned for the society, and that's the deeper identity that each one should aspire to.